I thought I knew everything about my mother, until I opened the envelope that carried her handwriting but not her name. The attic had always felt like another world, a place where time moved slower and dust carried the weight of old memories. I climbed the creaking wooden steps on a quiet Sunday afternoon, searching for a box of winter blankets, nothing more, or so I believed. Sunlight filtered through the small attic window, falling in soft lines across forgotten trunks and cardboard boxes stacked like tired soldiers. As I pushed aside an old suitcase, something fluttered to the floor, a pale blue envelope, edges yellowed, sealed but fragile. My mother's careful handwriting covered the front, but there was no name, no address, only 3 words. For when ready. My breath tightened. She had been gone for almost 4 years, yet here she was again, touching me with ink and paper across time. I sat cross-legged on the dusty floor, the envelope trembling between my fingers. I wasn't sure if I was ready, and maybe that was exactly why she'd hidden it. Memories rose like gentle waves, her quiet smile, the way she held her teacup, the soft hum she used to sing while cooking. I felt her presence settling around me, warm and familiar. But there was something heavier beneath it, a feeling that this letter might unearth a part of her life she had carefully kept hidden. I held the envelope against my chest, listening to the quiet hush of the attic. Whatever was inside, it had waited for me, and now, it felt like it was asking to be opened. But I hesitated because secrets, once read, never go back to sleep. I carried the envelope downstairs as if it were something delicate and alive. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I placed it on the dining table, the same place where my mother and I used to sit every evening, sharing tea and small conversations that felt unimportant at the time but now echoed with meaning. The house felt too quiet, almost as if it were holding its breath with me. Before opening it, I walked to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. My reflection in the window startled me. I looked older, or maybe it was the weight of the moment settling onto my shoulders. I thought about how my mother used to pause before speaking, choosing every word with such care. Maybe she had written this letter the same way, thoughtfully, lovingly, but with something she didn't know how to say aloud. When I returned to the table, the envelope seemed even more mysterious. The light caught its surface and highlighted faint watermarks, teardrops maybe, or just the marks of time. I pressed my fingers along the seal, feeling the dryness of the old glue. My heart beat so loudly I could hear it in my ears. Still, I couldn't open it. Not yet. Instead, I found myself drawn to the hallway cabinet where my mother kept all her albums. I pulled out the oldest one, the one she rarely showed anyone. Its leather cover was cracked, and the pages smelled of faint lavender, her favorite scent. As I flipped through the photographs, I searched for clues, anything that might hint at the kind of secret she would hide in an attic. There were pictures of her as a teenager, smiling shyly at the camera, photos of her with friends I'd never met, and then a few empty spaces where pictures had once been. Those empty spaces felt like silent warnings. I closed the album gently and looked back at the envelope waiting on the table. Whatever truth my mother left behind, it was time to face it. I finally sat down, the envelope resting in front of me like a quiet challenge. The house around me felt strangely alert, as if every wall, every piece of furniture, every memory was waiting to hear what the letter would reveal. I ran my thumb along the edge, feeling the ridges where time had worn the paper thin. My mother had touched this, sealed this, trusted this moment to reach me long after she was gone. But even now, something within me resisted. Instead of opening it, I let my mind drift back to the evening before she passed. She had been lying in her bed, the soft glow of a lamp warming her fading expression. She took my hand and whispered, "One day, you'll understand the things I didn't say." Back then, those words felt poetic, like something people said at the end of a long life. But now, they felt intentional. As if she'd known about the envelope, as if she'd known I would find it exactly when she wanted me to. A sudden heaviness filled my chest. What if this letter changed how I saw her? What if it changed everything I thought I knew about my family? I wasn't sure if I was ready for that. But at the same time, a part of me felt drawn forward, like the truth had already started pulling me into its orbit. The clock on the wall ticked steadily, its rhythm reminding me of nights when my mother and I sat here eating late dinners after long days. She always listened more than she spoke. Now I wondered if silence had been her way of protecting something. Finally, with a slow breath, I picked up the envelope again. My fingers slipped beneath the brittle seal. A faint crackle filled the air as it loosened, like the sound of a secret waking up after years of sleep. I paused, closed my eyes, and whispered, "Okay, Mom. I'm ready." And then, gently, I opened it. Inside the envelope was a single folded letter, yellowed at the edges, the ink faded but still readable. My mother's handwriting, soft, slanted, unmistakably hers, covered the page. I held it carefully, afraid it might tear if I breathed too hard. For a long moment, I didn't even unfold it. I just stared at the creases, imagining the night she sat down to write this, alone, with thoughts too heavy to speak out loud. When I finally opened it, the first lines stopped my breath. "My child, there is a part of my life you never knew, a part one hid to protect you from a pain that belonged to me." I felt the room tilt slightly. I read the words again, slowly this time, letting them sink in. Hidden pain? A part of her life I never knew? The letter felt suddenly heavier, as if it carried more than paper, like it carried her heartbeat, her history, her ghosts. "Before you were born," she continued, "I made a choice. It was the hardest choice I ever made, and the consequence of that choice has lived in my heart every day." My throat tightened. My mother had always been gentle, but there were moments, small flashes, when her eyes would drift somewhere far away, filled with a sadness I never understood. I'd asked her once, when I was a teenager, why she looked lonely sometimes. She smiled and said, "Some stories are too broken to retell." Now, sitting here with her words in my hands, I realized this letter was that story. As I continued reading, my eyes caught on a sentence that felt like a quiet storm gathering in the middle of the page. "You were not my first child." The room went silent. Completely still. I felt cold spread down my spine. My hands trembled so much I had to set the letter on the table before it slipped from my fingers. Not her first child. That meant. I looked back at the page, at the truth I had unknowingly lived beside all my life. Somewhere in my mother's past, there was someone else. A sibling I never knew existed. I stared at the words until they blurred, my mind scrambling to make sense of them. A sibling, someone who shared my mother's blood, her smile, her quiet strength. Someone who existed long before I ever took my first breath. The thought felt unreal, like I had stepped out of my own life and into someone else's. I forced myself to breathe slowly and picked up the letter again. "I was young," she wrote, "too young, too frightened, and far too alone. Your grandmother loved me, but the world outside was cruel. I found myself expecting a child at a time when I had no support, no stability, and no courage to face what people would say. My heart ached for her, this younger version of my mother, scared and cornered by circumstances she never talked about. I imagined her sitting alone in a small room, holding her belly, trying to decide a future she barely understood. I carried your sibling for 8 months, the letter continued, and with every day that passed, I loved them more. But life was unforgiving then. I had no home of my own, no partner, no means to raise a child. In the end, I made the only choice I believed would give them a better life." My fingers tightened around the page. She hadn't abandoned the child, she had tried to save them. I entrusted your sibling to a family who could protect them, who could offer them stability and love. The day I handed them over, a part of me broke. I could almost feel her heartbreak bleeding through the ink, the grief she carried alone for so many years. No wonder there were moments when her eyes held a sadness I couldn't name. No wonder she always watched families in public places with a quiet, longing expression. She had lived with this truth in the shadows. "I never stopped loving them," she wrote. "I never stopped wondering who they became." As I reached the bottom of the page, I noticed something strange. The letter didn't end. Instead, there were more pages, folded tightly beneath the first. My pulse quickened. If the first page revealed a secret, the next pages might reveal everything. I unfolded the second page slowly, almost afraid of what I might find. My mother's handwriting was more hurried here, as if she had poured out her heart all at once. The words were raw, trembling with emotion I had never seen in her before. Their name was Lily, she wrote, and the first time I held her, I felt both joy and fear, a love so fierce it almost hurt. I remember the softness of her tiny fingers, the warmth of her breath, and how the world seemed to collapse around me, leaving just her and me in the silence of a borrowed room. I could feel her pain, her love, every careful moment of a life she had kept hidden. I imagined Lily's small, trusting face, the child who grew without her mother but carried her love anyway. My chest tightened. A sibling I never knew, and yet, through the paper, I felt like I already did. I visited when I could, the letter continued. I watched from a distance, knowing that every smile she gave her new family was a smile she deserved, and every hug she received was one I could not give. But I never stopped thinking of her, never stopped longing to be near her, even if only in secret. I couldn't help but whisper her name, feeling it echo through the empty kitchen. Lily. My mother's hidden child. My unknown sister. A part of my own family I had never met. Tears welled in my eyes. My mother had carried this burden alone, keeping it from me, perhaps because she feared I wouldn't understand. And yet, here it was, laid bare on paper, as if she had trusted me enough to hold the truth safely. I hope, one day, you'll find her, she wrote, and when you do, know that my love has always followed her, as it has always followed you. Our hearts are connected, even when the world keeps us apart. I sat back, gripping the letter. My world had shifted. The mother I thought I knew had lived a life full of silent courage, secret love, and sacrifices I could scarcely imagine. And now, it was my turn to understand, to seek, to perhaps reconnect what had been lost. The envelope on the table no longer felt like paper. It felt like a key, and I had just unlocked the first door. I sat in silence for a long time, staring at the letter, my mind a whirl of questions and emotions. Lily, my mother's hidden daughter, my sister, and yet someone I had never met. I felt a strange pull, a connection that didn't need explanation. My mother had loved her, had mourned her absence, and now, somehow, that love reached me. I thought of my own childhood, moments when she seemed distant, her eyes clouded with unspoken thoughts. Could it have been for Lily? Had every gentle word, every small act of kindness, carried a hidden sorrow I could not see? My heart ached for her, for the sacrifices she had made silently, for the loneliness she had endured to protect both children. The letter went on. I wrote this so that you would know the truth, not because I needed forgiveness, but because the truth belongs to you now. Someday, when you are ready, you may seek her. And if you do, remember that she is a part of your family, and you a part of hers, even if the years have separated you. I ran my fingers over the words, feeling the tremor of her hand as she wrote. My mother had left me a responsibility I hadn't asked for, but one I could not ignore. I imagined Lily's life, her joys, her struggles, the unknown paths she had walked without a mother's guiding hand. A part of me hesitated. What if she didn't want to meet me? What if reconnecting brought pain instead of healing? And yet, another part of me knew I could not leave her lost in the shadows of our mother's past. I stood, clutching the letter, and looked out the window. The sky was soft with evening light, the world calm, almost patient. Somewhere out there, Lily existed, living, breathing, smiling, unaware of the family waiting for her. My heart told me it was time to find her. For the first time since opening the envelope, I felt a flicker of hope. The next days passed in a blur. I kept the letter close, reading it over and over, letting my mother's words sink deeper into my heart. Each sentence felt like a map, a guide to a life I had never known but somehow felt connected to. I could almost hear her voice whispering to me, urging me forward, telling me that finding Lily was not just a choice, it was a calling. I began my search quietly, starting with what little information the letter offered. My mother had left a few hints, names, places, a city far away. I wrote them down carefully, tracing each possibility. Every time I felt doubt, I held the letter and felt her love seep through the paper, steady and unwavering, reminding me that I was not alone in this. At night, I would lie awake, imagining what Lily might be like. Would she have my mother's eyes? Would she smile the way I remembered, or laugh the same way I did as a child? Questions tumbled through my mind, and with each thought, my longing grew stronger. One evening, I found myself pacing my mother's old living room, holding the letter and whispering, "I'll find her, Mom. I promise." The house seemed to hum with her approval, a quiet warmth that made the walls feel alive. I realized then that my mother had given me more than a secret, she had given me purpose, a bridge to heal what time had separated. I pulled out my laptop and began searching every record I could find, slowly piecing together the fragments of Lily's life. It was painstaking, exhausting, but every small clue felt like a heartbeat, guiding me closer. I knew it wouldn't be simple, and the risk of disappointment loomed over me, but I could not stop. The more I searched, the more I understood my mother's courage. She had carried this secret for decades, alone, and now it was my turn to carry it forward. To honor her love, to reunite the threads of a family torn apart by circumstance, and to finally bring closure to a story she had protected so fiercely. Weeks passed, and the search became all-consuming. Every lead, every tiny detail from my mother's letter, I chased with quiet determination. Some days were filled with hope, others heavy with disappointment. But through it all, I carried her words like a lantern, lighting my way in the dark. One rainy afternoon, I found a social media profile that matched the clues from the letter. My hands trembled as I clicked, heart pounding in a rhythm I hadn't known since childhood. There she was, Lily, smiling in a photograph that could have been plucked from my mother's memory. My chest ached with recognition, as if some invisible thread connected us across the years. I hesitated. How could I reach out without frightening her? How could I explain the decades of silence, the absence, the love that had always existed but never spoken? I typed a message carefully, my fingers shaking, pouring my heart into words I hoped she would understand. "I believe we are connected, my mother loved you and me. I hope we can meet." The hours that followed felt endless. I refreshed the page again and again, each moment stretching like a lifetime. Then, a message appeared. A single line. "I've been waiting for someone like you." Tears streamed down my face. The letter, the attic, my mother's secret, it had all led to this moment. My mother's love had created a bridge that time and distance could not sever. And for the first time, I felt the family I had longed for, whole and real, reaching back to me through the years, through pain, and through love, ready to begin again. The day we agreed to meet, my nerves were a tangle of excitement and fear. I kept the letter close, as if it could steady me, whispering my mother's courage through time. Every step toward the cafe felt like stepping into a new life, one my mother had imagined but never lived herself. When I arrived, I saw her immediately, Lily, my sister, standing by the window, her hair catching the afternoon sun. She turned and smiled, and in that moment, everything fell into place. It wasn't just recognition, it was connection, a lifetime of love and longing compressed into a single glance. We sat across from each other, words awkward at first, stumbling like hesitant birds. Then we spoke of our mother, of the stories we had never heard, of the sacrifices that had shaped our lives in silence. Tears came freely, laughter mixed with sorrow, and slowly the weight of decades began to lift. I shared the letter with her, the words my mother had entrusted to me. We read it together, pausing to absorb the depth of her courage and the enormity of her love. Lily's eyes glistened with gratitude, and I could feel the invisible thread of our mother's heart tying us together at last. For hours, we talked, learning each other's habits, our memories, our differences, and the things that bound us beyond biology, love, resilience, and the longing for family. It was overwhelming, yet comforting, as if we had been searching for each other our whole lives without knowing it. By the time we left, holding hands, the evening air felt lighter, the world softer. My mother's secret had brought us together, and in that revelation, her love endured, healing old wounds, and creating a new beginning for both of us. After that first meeting, our bond grew quickly. Lily and I began sharing pieces of ourselves that we had never revealed to anyone else. Photos, childhood memories, favorite books, even silly little habits that made us laugh. It was as if we had both been waiting for the other to arrive, filling the empty spaces in our hearts that neither of us had fully understood. We visited places my mother had loved, walking through parks, sitting by rivers she had taken me to as a child, sharing stories about her. Every laugh, every tear, every memory felt like a thread weaving our lives together, guided by her unseen hand. One afternoon, as we sat with the letter between us, Lily said softly, "She trusted you with this, with me, even from beyond." I nodded, realizing that our mother's courage had given us the gift of connection, the chance to reclaim something that had been lost long ago. We talked for hours, making plans for the future, imagining holidays together, family traditions we would create, the kind of bond only siblings could share. There was still a shadow of the years apart, but love, patience, and understanding began to fill it slowly. That night, I sat alone with the envelope once more. I ran my fingers over the folds and edges, feeling my mother's presence, her silent guidance. She had carried this secret for decades, alone, and now, in our hands, it had transformed into a bridge, one that connected hearts across time, distance, and loss. For the first time, I felt complete, not just as her child, but as a part of a larger, loving story that she had always wanted us to find. In the following weeks, Lily and I spent almost every day together, discovering the life we could have shared all along. We laughed over small things, like our shared love for the same books and movies, and cried over the years we had lost. Every story we shared about our mother deepened our understanding, not just of her, but of each other. One evening, sitting in the quiet living room with the letter on the table between us, Lily looked at me and said, "I can feel her here, in us, in every word she left behind." I nodded, realizing that my mother's love had transcended time, guiding us to this moment. We began piecing together her past, filling in gaps, understanding the choices she had made. The grief she carried, the love she nurtured, the sacrifices she endured, they were no longer burdens meant to be hidden. They had become a legacy, one that we could embrace and honor together. Every conversation, every memory, every shared laugh felt like a thread weaving us closer. It was as if our mother's spirit had quietly orchestrated our reunion, making sure that the bond she had silently preserved would finally come to life. I realized then that the envelope, the attic, the letter, it was never just a secret. It was a gift. A gift of love, courage, and family. And as Lily and I held hands, looking at the words that had brought us together, I knew that we would carry her legacy forward, together, and with hearts full of the love she had always wanted us to feel. The weeks turned into months, and every day with Lily revealed more of the sister I never knew I had. We shared stories from our childhoods, comparing notes on memories of our mother, laughing at little quirks we both inherited. Each shared memory felt like discovering a hidden corner of our lives, one my mother had carefully preserved in her heart all those years. We began visiting the places she loved, retracing her steps in the parks, the little cafes, and quiet streets she had walked. Every location held whispers of her presence, her guidance, her love. And as we spoke about her, about the sacrifices she had made and the quiet courage she had shown, I felt an overwhelming gratitude. She had trusted us, long before we could understand the weight of her secret. Some nights, we would sit with the envelope, rereading her words, letting her voice fill the room. The tears and laughter mingled together, a testament to the complex beauty of the family she had created in silence. I realized that this secret was not meant to divide, it was meant to unite us, to bring us together, to remind us that love endures even through absence. Holding Lily's hand, I finally understood the depth of my mother's love. It had not been lost, it had been waiting, carefully placed in the attic, hidden in a letter, guiding us toward each other. And now, in her absence, her love was more alive than ever, living through us, connecting us, giving us a chance to heal and grow as sisters, as a family, as a continuation of her story. Her secret had become our gift, her courage had become our strength, and her love had become the bond that would carry us forward, together, forever. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and subscribe for more emotional stories like this. Your support helps these tales reach hearts around the world, and remember, every secret carries a story waiting to be told.